Lisa had been dreaming about this moment for 3 years. She stood at her kitchen window, watching her kids splash around in their brand new pool, and felt like pinching herself to make sure it was real. The morning sun sparkled off the water, and she could hear her twin daughters giggling as they tried to do handstands underwater. "Mom, watch this," 10-year-old Katie called out, preparing for what looked like her 15th cannonball of the day. Her sister Amy was floating on her back, staring up at the clouds, completely peaceful. Their little brother Jake, who just turned 8 last month, was practicing his doggy paddle near the shallow end where his dad Tom was sitting with his feet in the water. The pool had taken forever to install. First there were permit delays, then the excavation crew hit a water pipe. After that it rained for 2 weeks straight, turning their backyard into a mud pit. Lisa had started to wonder if they'd ever actually get to use the thing. But here they were on this perfect Saturday morning in July, and it was everything she'd hoped for. Tom looked over at her through the sliding glass door and gave her a thumbs up. He was grinning like a kid himself. They'd been saving up for this pool for years, putting away every extra dollar they could find. Lisa had taken on extra shifts at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. Tom had started doing weekend handyman jobs on top of his regular construction work. The kids had even contributed their birthday money and allowance savings. Living in Meadowbrook Estates wasn't cheap, but they'd fallen in love with the community the moment they saw it. The houses were beautiful, the lake view was incredible, and the neighborhood felt safe and friendly. Most of their neighbors were families with kids around the same age. Katie and Amy had made friends with the Johnson twins from 2 houses down, and Jake was buddies with little Peter from across the street. The homeowners association kept everything looking nice, though Lisa had to admit some of the rules seemed a bit much. Like how you couldn't have more than 3 garden gnomes in your front yard, or how your garbage cans had to be a specific shade of brown. But overall, it was worth it to live somewhere so well-maintained and peaceful. Lisa poured herself another cup of coffee and stepped onto the back patio. The pool looked even better from out here. They'd positioned it perfectly to catch the morning sun, while still having some shade from the big oak tree in the afternoon. The lake stretched out beyond their fence, creating this amazing view that made the whole backyard feel like a resort. "Hey, Mom, can we have a pool party next weekend?" Amy asked, floating over to the edge. "We'll see, sweetie. Let's enjoy it ourselves for a while first." But Lisa was already mentally planning it. Tom's brother and his family could come over, maybe some of the neighbors and their kids. She'd make her famous potato salad and Tom could grill burgers. It would be perfect. That's when she noticed the woman standing at the edge of their property. Linda Patterson lived 3 houses down, in the big colonial with the perfectly manicured lawn that looked like something out of a magazine. Lisa had met her a few times at neighborhood gatherings, and Linda always seemed a bit intense. She was the type of person who remembered everyone's business and wasn't shy about sharing her opinions about how things should be done. Right now, Linda was standing at the property line between their yards, arms crossed, staring directly at the pool area. She had her phone out and appeared to be taking pictures. Lisa felt a little flutter of unease in her stomach. What could Linda possibly need pictures of? "Tom," Lisa called softly, not wanting to alarm the kids. "Come here for a second." Tom got up, water dripping from his feet, and walked over to where Lisa was standing. He followed her gaze and spotted Linda immediately. "What's she doing?" he asked, keeping his voice low. "I have no idea, but she's been standing there for about 10 minutes just watching and taking pictures." They both knew Linda had some strong opinions about neighborhood standards. Last Christmas, she'd actually sent them a typed letter, complaining about their holiday lights display. According to Linda, having inflatable decorations was lowering the tone of the neighborhood. Lisa had been so shocked by the letter that she'd shown it to Tom, and they'd both laughed about it. Who sends formal complaint letters about Christmas decorations? But this felt different. More serious. "Should I go talk to her?" Tom asked. "Let's just ignore her for now. Maybe she'll go away." But Linda didn't go away. If anything, she seemed to be getting more agitated. She was pacing back and forth along the fence line now, stopping every few steps to take more pictures. At one point, she pulled out what looked like a measuring tape. "What's that lady doing, Mom?" Jake asked, swimming over to the side of the pool closest to where Linda was standing. "Just mind your own business, honey. Keep playing." Lisa tried to focus on her kids having fun, but Linda's presence was making her nervous. The woman was clearly upset about something, and Lisa had a sinking feeling it had to do with their pool. But what could possibly be wrong? They'd gotten all the proper permits. The county inspector had signed off on everything. The pool company had assured them they were following all local regulations. After another 15 minutes of Linda's surveillance, Lisa decided she'd had enough. She was about to walk over and ask Linda what the problem was when the woman suddenly turned and marched back toward her own house. But something about the determined way she was walking made Lisa think this wasn't over. "That was weird," Tom said, settling back down at the pool's edge. "Yeah, really weird." Lisa tried to shake off the bad feeling, but it lingered. She'd worked hard to build good relationships with their neighbors. Most of them were lovely people who'd welcomed the family warmly when they moved in 2 years ago. Mrs. Chen next door always brought over extra vegetables from her garden. The Johnsons let them borrow tools whenever they needed them. Even Mr. Garcia, who was pretty quiet, always waved and asked how the kids were doing. But Linda was different. Lisa got the impression that Linda saw herself as some kind of neighborhood watchdog, making sure everyone followed the rules and maintained proper standards. The problem was, Linda's idea of proper standards seemed to be pretty extreme. The kids played for another hour before finally getting tired and hungry. Lisa made them sandwiches while they dried off, and Tom started putting away the pool toys. It had been such a perfect morning. Exactly what they'd dreamed of when they'd first talked about getting a pool. But Lisa couldn't shake the image of Linda standing at their fence, taking pictures and looking angry. Whatever was bothering their neighbor, Lisa had a feeling they'd be hearing about it soon. And judging by Linda's past behavior, it probably wouldn't be a friendly conversation. Still, as Lisa watched her kids happily munching their sandwiches and planning their next swim, she decided not to worry about it too much. They'd done everything by the book. Their pool was legal, safe, and properly installed. Whatever Linda's problem was, surely it couldn't be that serious. She had no idea how wrong she was. Lisa was just finishing up the lunch dishes when she heard the doorbell ring. Through the front window, she could see Linda Patterson standing on their porch, holding a thick folder and looking like she meant business. Lisa's stomach dropped. She'd been hoping that whatever had bothered Linda that morning would just blow over. "Tom," she called to her husband, who was in the living room with the kids. "Linda's here." Tom looked up from the cartoon he'd been half watching with Jake. "Want me to get it?" "No, I'll handle it. Just keep an eye on the kids." Lisa took a deep breath and opened the front door. Linda was wearing a crisp white blouse and dark pants, like she was dressed for a business meeting instead of a casual Saturday afternoon visit. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and she had the kind of expression that Lisa had seen on the faces of difficult patients at the hospital, the ones who were convinced that everyone else was doing everything wrong. "Hello? Linda, what can I do for you?" "We need to talk," Linda said without any of the usual pleasantries. "About your pool situation." Lisa kept her voice calm and friendly, even though she was already annoyed. "Sure, what about it?" Linda opened her folder and pulled out a highlighted copy of what looked like an official document. "I've been reviewing the Homeowners Association bylaws, and I'm afraid your pool installation violates several important regulations." "I'm sorry, what?" Lisa felt genuinely confused. "We got all the proper permits and approvals. Everything was inspected and approved. County permits are one thing," Linda said, her tone suggesting that county permits were basically worthless. "But Homeowners Association rules are completely separate. And according to Section 12 of our community guidelines, any recreational water feature must be positioned at least 15 feet from the property line." Linda thrust a measuring tape toward Lisa. "I measured this morning, and your pool is only 12.5 feet from the boundary. That's a clear violation." Lisa stared at the measuring tape like it might bite her. "Linda, I really don't think that's right. Our pool company specifically checked all the setback requirements before they started digging." "Pool companies make mistakes all the time," Linda said dismissively. "They're focused on making money, not following community standards. I've seen it happen before." The kids' voices carried from the backyard where they'd gone back outside to play on the swing set. Lisa could hear Katie trying to teach Jake how to pump his legs to swing higher. It was such a normal, happy sound, and here she was dealing with this bizarre situation. "Look, Linda, even if there is some kind of measurement issue, surely we can work something out. Maybe I could plant some shrubs along the fence line or something." "It's not just about the setback," Linda continued, flipping to another highlighted page. "There's also the noise ordinance. Section 8 clearly states that excessive noise is prohibited during quiet hours, which extend until 10 a.m. on weekends. Lisa felt her patience starting to slip. My kids were just playing normally. They weren't being excessive about anything. Splashing and shouting can be very disruptive to neighbors who are trying to enjoy peaceful weekend mornings, Linda said. Some of us value tranquility. It was almost 11 o'clock when you came over to take pictures, Lisa pointed out. And my kids were just having fun like normal kids do. But Linda wasn't done. She pulled out another sheet of paper, this one covered in her own handwriting. There's also the issue of fairness to the broader community. Fairness? My son Bradley is on the regional swim team. He practices 6 days a week and has real athletic potential. Meanwhile, he has to train at the overcrowded community center pool, while other families get private swimming facilities right in their backyard. Lisa blinked. She was starting to understand where this was really going. Linda, are you saying my kids shouldn't use their own pool because your son is a swimmer? I'm saying that community resources should be allocated more thoughtfully. Bradley needs proper training facilities. He has goals, ambitions. He's working towards something important. And my kids aren't important? Linda's expression hardened. Your children are just playing around. Bradley is a serious athlete. The community should support families who are contributing something meaningful. Lisa felt heat rising in her cheeks. The absolute nerve of this woman was incredible. Linda, this is our property. We saved for years to buy this house and install this pool. My kids have every right to enjoy it. Do they, though? Linda shot back. When there are other children in the neighborhood who could benefit more from access to proper swimming facilities? Are you actually suggesting that I should let your son use our pool instead of my own children? I'm suggesting that responsible neighbors think about the greater good of the community instead of just their own selfish interests. That was it. Lisa's nurse training had taught her to stay calm under pressure, but this was pushing every button she had. Linda, I need you to leave now. I'm not finished, Linda said, pulling out yet another document. I've already prepared formal complaints to file with the Homeowners Association Board. The setback violation, the noise disturbances, and the general disregard for community harmony. Community harmony? Lisa's voice was getting louder despite her efforts to stay controlled. You're the one disrupting the harmony by harassing us about our legally installed pool. Tom appeared at Lisa's shoulder. He'd obviously heard their voices rising and come to back her up. Is there a problem here? Linda looked Tom up and down like she was sizing up an opponent. Your wife seems to think that having money gives your family special privileges in this neighborhood. Special privileges? Tom's voice was dangerously quiet. Like using our own pool in our own backyard? Like ignoring community standards and flaunting your wealth while other families struggle to provide opportunities for their children? Lisa could see a muscle in Tom's jaw twitching. He worked construction and wasn't used to people talking to him like this. Lady, I don't know what your problem is, but we didn't do anything wrong. We followed all the rules, got all the permits, and paid for everything ourselves. The rules you followed were insufficient, Linda said primly. I'll be filing complaints with the Homeowners Association first thing Monday morning. And if they don't take appropriate action, I'll be exploring other options. What other options? Lisa asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. There are county health departments, building inspectors, noise ordinance enforcement. Plenty of ways to address situations where neighbors aren't being cooperative. Tom stepped forward slightly. Are you threatening us? I'm informing you of the consequences of not addressing legitimate community concerns, Linda replied. Some of us take our neighborhood responsibilities seriously. Lisa put a hand on Tom's arm before he could say something they'd all regret. Linda, I think you need to leave now. If you want to file complaints, that's your right. But this conversation is over. Linda snapped her folder shut with a satisfied expression. You'll be hearing from the Homeowners Association Board. And I strongly suggest you start thinking about how to make this situation right for the whole community, not just your own family. She turned and walked away with the same determined stride she'd had that morning. Lisa and Tom stood on their porch watching her go. What just happened? Tom asked. I think we just got threatened by the neighborhood crazy person, Lisa said, though her hands were shaking slightly. From the backyard, they could hear the kids still playing, completely unaware that their perfect pool day had just turned into something much more complicated. Lisa looked at Tom and she could see her own worry reflected in his eyes. What do we do now? I guess we wait and see what she actually does, Lisa said. But Tom, we didn't do anything wrong. We followed every rule, got every permit. I know, but something tells me this isn't over. As they went back inside, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that Linda Patterson was just getting started, and whatever came next was probably going to be even worse than what they just experienced. The next few days passed quietly, and Lisa started to hope that maybe Linda had gotten whatever was bothering her out of her system. The kids went back to their normal routine of swimming in the morning and playing in the yard in the afternoons. Tom returned to work on Monday, and Lisa picked up her regular shifts at the hospital. But on Wednesday evening, something happened that made Lisa realize this situation was far from over. The family was enjoying a peaceful swim after dinner. The summer heat had been brutal all day and the cool water felt amazing. Lisa was floating on a pool noodle, watching Tom help Jake practice his freestyle stroke. The twins were playing some elaborate game that involved diving for pool toys and seemed to have rules that changed every few minutes. That's when Lisa noticed the boy. He was standing at the fence that separated their yard from Linda's, gripping the chain link with both hands and staring at the pool with the most longing expression Lisa had ever seen. She recognized him immediately. Bradley Patterson, Linda's son. He looked to be about 12 or 13, tall and lean with the kind of build you'd expect from a serious swimmer. Lisa felt a pang of sympathy. The kid clearly loved swimming, and here he was watching other children enjoy something he probably dreamed about having. She was actually considering swimming over to say hello and maybe invite him to join them when Linda appeared. "Bradley Patterson, you get away from that fence right now." Linda's voice cut through the peaceful evening air like a knife. The boy jumped back like he'd been caught doing something illegal. "Mom, I was just looking. I wasn't doing anything wrong." "Those people think they're better than everyone else," Linda said, her voice carrying clearly across the yard. "They don't care about families like ours who actually work hard and deserve nice things." Lisa felt her face burning with embarrassment and anger. How dare Linda talk about them like that, especially in front of her own son? And what did she mean about working hard? Lisa and Tom both worked incredibly hard for everything they had. "But Mom, maybe they'd let me swim sometime if I asked nicely," Bradley said hopefully. "For training, you know? Coach says I need more pool time if I want to make the regional team." "You will not beg those people for anything," Linda snapped. "We have our dignity, Bradley. We don't ask for charity from neighbors who flaunt their wealth while others struggle." Bradley looked crushed. He glanced back at the pool one more time before Linda grabbed his arm and marched him toward their house. Lisa felt terrible for the kid. None of this was his fault, and he was the one suffering because his mother had some kind of weird grudge against their family. "That was harsh," Tom said quietly, swimming over to Lisa. "The kid didn't do anything wrong." "I know. I was thinking about inviting him over before Linda showed up. Maybe we still could. Talk to Linda when she's calmed down a bit." Lisa wasn't sure Linda was capable of calming down, but she nodded anyway. She hated seeing any kid disappointed, especially when it was over something so silly. The rest of the week stayed quiet, and by Saturday morning, Lisa was feeling optimistic again. Maybe Linda had made her point and would leave them alone now. Maybe they could even work something out about Bradley using the pool sometimes for training. She was making pancakes for the kids when she heard car doors slamming in the driveway. Multiple car doors. Lisa looked out the front window and felt her blood turn to ice. 2 police cars were parked in their driveway. "Tom," she called, her voice higher than she intended. "Tom, get out here now." Tom came running from the bathroom, still in his pajama pants. "What's wrong?" "Police in our driveway." Right now, they both rushed to the front door. Through the window, they could see 2 officers walking up their front steps. Lisa's mind was racing. What could the police possibly want with them? They were law-abiding people. They paid their taxes, followed traffic laws, had never even gotten a noise complaint before. The doorbell rang and Lisa opened it with shaking hands. "Good morning, folks. I'm Officer Martinez and this is Officer Johnson. We received a call about a possible safety violation involving children in a swimming pool." Lisa's mouth went dry. "A safety violation?" "Yes, ma'am. The caller reported unsupervised minors in a backyard pool and expressed concerns about whether the pool met current safety codes." Lisa looked over the officer's shoulder toward the backyard, where she could clearly see Tom sitting at the pool's edge with his feet in the water while the kids played. "Officer, my husband is right there supervising and I was watching from the kitchen. The children are never unsupervised." Officer Johnson looked toward the pool area and seemed confused. "We can see that, ma'am. The caller made it sound like children were swimming alone without any adult present. That's absolutely not true, Tom said, joining Lisa at the door. I've been out there the whole time and my wife has been going back and forth between the kitchen and the patio. Do you mind if we take a look at the pool area? Officer Martinez asked, just to confirm everything is safe and up to code. Of course, Lisa said, though her heart was pounding. Would you like to see our permits and inspection records too? That would be helpful. Lisa led the officers through the house to the backyard while Tom went to get their file folder of pool documents. The kids had stopped playing and were watching with wide, worried eyes. It's okay, guys, Lisa told them. The officers just need to check on something. Officer Johnson walked around the pool area, examining the safety features and equipment. Officer Martinez reviewed their permits and inspection certificates. Everything looks perfect here, Officer Martinez said after a few minutes. Pool is properly fenced, safety equipment is in place, chemicals are stored correctly. All your paperwork is in order too. Ma'am, do you have any idea who might have called this in? Officer Johnson asked. Lisa hesitated. She had a pretty good idea, but she didn't want to make accusations without proof. The caller also mentioned something about homeowners association violations and said the family was showing off their wealth inappropriately. Officer Martinez added, that's not really a police matter, but the caller seemed to think it was connected to the safety concerns. Lisa and Tom exchanged glances. That definitely sounded like Linda. Look, we don't usually get calls like this unless there's some kind of neighbor dispute going on, Officer Johnson said kindly. Is there anyone in the neighborhood who might have an issue with your family? Before Lisa could answer, they all heard the sound of a garden hose turning on next door. Linda Patterson had appeared in her backyard and was making a big show of watering her flowers while obviously straining to hear their conversation. The officers noticed immediately. The caller also mentioned that the pool was installed without proper community approval and that the family was being inconsiderate to neighbors who can't afford such luxuries, Officer Martinez said, lowering his voice. It was becoming pretty obvious who had made the call. Officers, we followed every rule and regulation, Tom said. We got county permits, HOA approval, professional installation, and passed all inspections. I can show you everything. We believe you, sir. This seems like a case of someone using emergency services to try to resolve a personal dispute. That's not what we're here for. Officer Johnson looked toward Linda's yard where she was still pretending to water plants while clearly listening. We might need to have a conversation with your neighbor about appropriate use of emergency services. We just want to live peacefully, Lisa said. Our kids love swimming and we thought we'd followed all the rules to make that possible. You have followed the rules, Officer Martinez assured her. Your pool is perfectly legal and safe. Whoever called this in was either seriously misinformed or deliberately wasting county resources. After the officers left, Lisa and Tom sat on their patio feeling shaken. The kids had gone back to swimming, but the joyful atmosphere from earlier was gone. I can't believe she called the police on us, Lisa said. Over a pool. Our own pool in our own yard. What's next? Tom asked. Fire department? Building inspectors? How far is she willing to take this? Lisa looked over at Linda's yard, where the woman was still making a show of doing yard work while keeping an eye on their property. I don't know, she said, but I have a feeling we're about to find out. The perfect summer morning they'd started with felt like a memory from weeks ago instead of just a few hours. Lisa realized that Linda Patterson wasn't just a difficult neighbor. She was someone willing to involve police and emergency services in her personal vendetta, and that made her much more dangerous than Lisa had originally thought. News about the police incident spread through Meadowbrook Estates faster than Lisa could have imagined. By Monday afternoon, she was getting text messages from neighbors she barely knew, all wanting to know what had happened and offering their support, but not everyone was on their side. Lisa first realized how divided the neighborhood had become when she ran into Mrs. Wilson at the grocery store. Mrs. Wilson lived 2 streets over and had always seemed like a nice enough person. But when she spotted Lisa in the produce section, her expression was distinctly cool. I heard about your situation with Linda, Mrs. Wilson said, not bothering with any friendly small talk. Oh yes, it's been pretty stressful, Lisa replied, hoping for some sympathy. Well, I have to say I can understand Linda's frustration. Some of us have been in this neighborhood for 20 years and can't afford to put in swimming pools. It does seem a bit much. Lisa stared at her, hardly believing what she was hearing. Mrs. Wilson, we saved for years to afford our house and the pool. We didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying you did anything illegal, Mrs. Wilson said, picking through the apples with more attention than they really needed. But maybe you could have been more considerate about how it might make other families feel. Lisa left the store feeling stunned. Was she actually being criticized for improving her own property with money she and Tom had earned themselves? But thankfully, not everyone felt that way. When she got home, there was a casserole dish on her front porch with a note from Janet Chen, their next-door neighbor. Lisa heard about what happened. This is ridiculous. You followed all the rules and deserve to enjoy your beautiful pool. Don't let one bitter person ruin your summer. Janet, that evening, Tom came home with similar stories from work. Some of his co-workers thought Linda was completely out of line, while others seemed to think Lisa and Tom were showing off and should have expected some backlash. It's like people think we're bad neighbors for having nice things, Tom said, frustrated. When did that become a crime? The situation got more complicated when Lisa learned that Linda had been busy filing official complaints. On Tuesday, Lisa received a certified letter from the Homeowners Association requesting her presence at an emergency board meeting to address multiple violations and community concerns. Lisa called the HOA president, Carol Stevens, to find out what was going on. Lisa, I'm so sorry about this, Carol said, sounding genuinely apologetic. Linda has filed 7 different complaints about your pool in the past week. We have to investigate any formal complaint, even if it seems frivolous. 7 complaints? About what? Let's see. Setback violations, noise ordinances, light pollution, failure to get proper community approval, disruption of neighborhood harmony, inappropriate display of wealth, and something about exclusive use of recreational facilities. Lisa felt dizzy. Carol, we got approval for everything. We have all the documentation. I know, honey. I was on the board when we approved your pool plans last year. But Linda is claiming there were oversights and demanding a full review. She's also threatening to bring in outside inspectors if we don't take action. What kind of action? She wants us to order you to either move the pool or share access with other community families. Specifically, she wants guaranteed pool time for her son Bradley. Lisa couldn't believe what she was hearing. She wants us to share our private pool? I know it sounds crazy, but we have to let her present her case at the meeting. It's in our bylaws. Lisa spent the rest of the week preparing for the HOA meeting. She gathered all their permits, inspection records, and approval documents. Tom took photos showing the exact measurements from their pool to the property line, proving they were well within the setback requirements. But as the meeting day approached, Lisa realized the neighborhood was becoming genuinely divided over the issue. At the community mailboxes, she overheard heated conversations between neighbors. I think Linda has a point about community fairness. She heard Mr. Rodriguez saying to another neighbor, why should one family have a private pool when other kids have to use the crowded community center? But Mrs. Patterson from down the street disagreed. That's ridiculous, George. They paid for their house, they saved their money, and they followed all the rules. Would you want strangers using your backyard? The night before the meeting, Lisa was surprised by a knock at her door. She opened it to find Bradley Patterson standing on her porch looking nervous and embarrassed. Hi, Mrs. He started, then stopped. I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. It's Lisa Thompson. You're Bradley, right? Yes, ma'am. I wanted to apologize for my mom. I know she's been causing problems for your family. Lisa's heart went out to the kid. He looked mortified. Bradley, none of this is your fault. It kind of is, though. She's doing all this because she thinks I deserve to use your pool more than your kids do. But that's not true. It's your pool and your kids should get to use it. You're a sweet kid, Bradley. Your mom loves you and wants good things for you. She's just going about it the wrong way. I told her I didn't want her to cause trouble. But she says I'm too young to understand about standing up for what's fair. Bradley kicked at the ground with his sneaker. The thing is, I don't think any of this is fair. Not to you, not to your kids. Well, I appreciate you saying that, Mrs. Thompson. If this all gets worked out somehow, and if your family ever wanted to let me swim sometimes for training, I promise I'd be really respectful and grateful. But I don't think you should have to. It's your pool. After Bradley left, Lisa felt even more determined to stand her ground at the HOA meeting. This wasn't really about pool access or community fairness. It was about Linda Patterson trying to use her son's swimming talent to justify her own entitlement and jealousy. The HOA meeting was held in the community center, and Lisa was shocked by how many people showed up. Usually these meetings had maybe 10 attendees. Tonight there were at least 40 neighbors packed into the room. Carol Stevens called the meeting to order and explained the situation. Then Linda stood up to present her case. "I'm here tonight because our community is supposed to be about shared values and mutual support," Linda began. "But some families seem to think that having money gives them the right to ignore the needs of their neighbors." Lisa felt her cheeks burning, but she stayed quiet and let Linda continue. "My son Bradley is a dedicated athlete who needs proper training facilities. Meanwhile, children who just splash around for fun have exclusive access to a private pool, while serious swimmers are forced to use overcrowded public facilities. That's not how private property works," someone called out from the back of the room. "Let her finish," Carol said. Linda went on to claim that the pool was too close to the property line, that the noise was disruptive, and that the lights created light pollution that affected her family's enjoyment of their own yard. When it was Lisa's turn to speak, she stood up with her folder of documents. "My family followed every rule and regulation," she said simply. "We got proper permits, professional installation, and passed all inspections. Here's the documentation." She handed copies to the board members. "We're not trying to show off or make anyone feel bad. We saved for years to afford this pool, and we just want our children to enjoy it safely in our own backyard." Board member Mike Peterson reviewed the documents. These all look to be in perfect order. The setback measurements show the pool is actually 17 feet from the property line, not 12. And all the safety and lighting features meet county standards. "What about the issue of community fairness?" Linda pressed. That's when Janet Chen stood up. "Linda, that's not how homeownership works. Are you going to demand access to everyone's nice things? Should we all share our cars and kitchens too?" Several people laughed and Linda's face flushed red. "This is different," Linda insisted. "Recreation facilities should benefit the whole community." "Then use the community pool like everyone else," called out Tom's friend Dave from across the room. The meeting went on for another hour, with neighbors arguing back and forth about property rights, community standards, and fairness. In the end, the board voted unanimously to dismiss all of Linda's complaints and issued a formal statement that the Thompson family had violated no rules or regulations. But as people filed out of the meeting, Lisa could see that some hard feelings had been created. The neighborhood felt different now, more tense and divided. Linda approached her as they were leaving. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "There are other ways to address unfair situations." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. If Linda was willing to call the police and file false complaints with the HOA, what would she try next? Linda's threat at the HOA meeting turned out to be more than just angry words. 2 weeks later, Lisa answered her door to find a county health inspector standing on her porch with an official clipboard and a very serious expression. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm Inspector Richards from the County Health Department. We received a complaint about a potential public health hazard regarding your swimming pool facility." Lisa's heart sank. A health hazard? The complaint alleges improper chemical storage, inadequate filtration systems, and possible contamination risks to the local water supply. "I need to conduct a full inspection." Lisa led the inspector to the backyard where Tom was cleaning the pool skimmer. The inspector spent the next 30 minutes examining every aspect of their pool setup: the chemical storage shed, the filtration system, the water quality, even the surrounding landscaping. "Mrs. Thompson," Inspector Richards said finally, "I have to tell you this is one of the cleanest, best-maintained residential pools I've inspected this year. Your chemical levels are perfect, your equipment is top-notch, and everything is stored safely and properly. So there's no health hazard? None whatsoever. Whoever filed this complaint was either seriously misinformed or deliberately wasting county resources. We take false reports very seriously." After the inspector left, Lisa sat on her patio feeling exhausted. How far was Linda willing to take this? What would she try next? The fire department? Building inspectors? At this rate, Lisa was going to have every county official in her backyard. That afternoon, Carol Stevens from the HOA called with news that made Lisa feel a bit better. "Lisa, I wanted to let you know that the board met in emergency session today. We've issued a formal cease and desist order to Linda Patterson regarding any further harassment of your family." "Really?" "We've also voted to pursue legal action. if she continues to file false complaints or misuse official channels. This has gone way beyond acceptable neighbor behavior. I appreciate that, Carol, I really do. We're also going to send a letter to the whole community clarifying that private property rights are not subject to community approval beyond existing regulations. Some people seem confused about that. Lisa felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Finally, someone in authority was taking their side and putting a stop to Linda's harassment. But the real turning point came from an unexpected source. On Saturday morning, Lisa was weeding her front garden when she noticed Bradley Patterson sitting on the sidewalk near their driveway. He was just sitting there staring at the ground, looking absolutely miserable. Lisa watched him for a few minutes, debating whether to approach. Finally, her maternal instincts won out. "Hey, Bradley," she called softly. "You okay?" The boy looked up with tears in his eyes. "Hi, Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry for bothering you." "You're not bothering me." "What's wrong?" Bradley glanced toward his house, then back at Lisa. "My mom says I can't even look toward your pool anymore. She says your family is trying to make us look poor and that I'm not allowed to talk to any of you." Lisa felt her heart break for this kid. "Bradley, come sit on my porch for a minute." He hesitated, then walked over and sat on her front steps. "Can I tell you something?" Lisa said, sitting down beside him. "None of this fighting is about you or swimming or pools. It's about adults not handling their feelings very well. But my mom says you have things we can't afford and that it's not fair." Lisa chose her words carefully. Sometimes when people feel left out or worried about money, they get angry at the wrong people. Your mom loves you and wants good things for you, but she's going about it in a way that's hurting everyone, including you. Bradley wiped his nose with his sleeve. "I just want to swim and get better at it. I don't care about the other stuff. What if I talk to your mom about letting you use our pool sometimes for training? With proper supervision and maybe a schedule that works for everyone?" Bradley's face lit up, then fell again. She'd never agree to that. "She says we don't take charity from neighbors." What if it wasn't charity? What if it was just neighbors helping each other out? That evening, Lisa did something that took all her courage. She walked to Linda's house and knocked on the door. Linda answered, looking suspicious and defensive. "What do you want?" "I want to talk to you, mother to mother. I have nothing to say to you. Please, Linda. 5 minutes. For Bradley's sake." Something in Lisa's tone must have gotten through, because Linda stepped onto her porch and closed the door behind her. "Linda, I know you think Tom and I are trying to show off or make you feel bad, but that's not true. We worked really hard to afford our house and pool just like you work hard for your family. You have no idea what it's like," Linda said, but her voice was less hostile than before. "Actually, I do. Tom and I both grew up without much money. We know what it feels like to want things you can't afford, but taking it out on neighbors isn't the answer." Linda was quiet for a moment. "It's just, Bradley is so talented, and he needs more pool time if he's going to reach his potential. But the community center is always crowded, and private lessons are so expensive. What if Bradley could use our pool sometimes for training? We could work out a schedule that gives him dedicated practice time." Linda looked shocked. "You'd do that? After everything I've put your family through? I'd do it for Bradley. He's a good kid who got caught in the middle of adult drama he didn't create." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "I've been awful to you. I was just so frustrated and jealous, and I took it out on your family instead of dealing with my own feelings. We all make mistakes. Linda, what matters is what we do next." It took several more conversations, but eventually they worked out an arrangement. Bradley would come over 3 mornings a week to practice in their pool. In exchange, Linda agreed to stop all complaints and harassment, and to issue a public apology to the neighborhood for the disruption she'd caused. The first morning Bradley showed up for practice, he was nervous and polite, thanking Lisa about 50 times before he even got in the water. But once he started swimming, Lisa could see immediately that the kid was genuinely talented. His stroke was smooth and powerful, and he moved through the water like he belonged there. "He's really good," Tom observed, watching Bradley practice his turns. "Yeah, he is. And look how happy he is." Over the following week, something wonderful happened. Bradley became a regular fixture in their backyard, but not just for swimming. He started staying after practice to play with Jake and help him improve his own swimming skills. The twins enjoyed having an older kid around who treated them like swimming teammates instead of little kids. Linda slowly began to change too. She stopped by one afternoon to bring Lisa some homemade cookies as a thank you. "I owe you a huge apology," Linda said, sitting at Lisa's kitchen table. "I let my own insecurities turn me into someone I didn't recognize. Someone mean and bitter." "What changed?" Lisa asked, watching Bradley these past few weeks. "He's happier than I've seen him in months, and it's not just because of the pool time. It's because he's part of something positive instead of being dragged into adult conflicts. He's a great kid, Linda. You should be proud." "I am, but I'm also ashamed of how I behaved. I was so focused on what we didn't have that I forgot to be grateful for what we do have." Linda paused, then continued. "The truth is, I've been struggling since my divorce. Money's been tight, and I felt like everyone in the neighborhood was moving forward while we were falling behind. Instead of dealing with those feelings, I decided to blame you for having what I wanted." Lisa reached across the table and squeezed Linda's hand. "We've all been there. What matters is that you recognized it and decided to change." As summer turned to fall, the neighborhood slowly healed from the division that Linda's complaints had created. Bradley continued to use the pool for training, and his times improved dramatically. He even made the regional swim team, which was his biggest goal. The community learned something important too. At the next HOA meeting, Carol Stevens addressed the whole neighborhood about the situation. "Sometimes we forget that a strong community isn't about everyone having the exact same things," she said. "It's about supporting each other's successes and helping each other through challenges. Private property rights exist for good reasons, but so does neighborly kindness." Lisa never became close friends with Linda, but they developed a respectful relationship based on mutual understanding. Linda learned to manage her feelings of inadequacy without taking them out on others, and Lisa learned that sometimes the most difficult people are just scared and struggling beneath their harsh exterior. The pool that had caused so much controversy became a symbol of something positive. Proof that conflicts could be resolved when people chose understanding over anger and community over division. One evening in late summer, Lisa was floating in the pool watching Bradley teach Jake a proper flip turn while the twins practiced diving. Tom was grilling burgers, and even Linda had stopped by to watch Bradley's practice session. "You know what?" Tom said, flipping a burger. "This turned out better than I ever imagined." Lisa smiled, watching their backyard full of kids and neighbors enjoying the peaceful evening. "Sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places." Bradley called out from the pool, "Mrs. Thompson, thank you for giving me a chance to train here, and for helping my mom and me work things out. Thank you for reminding us what community really means, Bradley." As the sun set over the lake, Lisa realized that their perfect pool had given them something even more valuable than a place to swim. It had taught them all that building a real community meant looking beyond your own needs to see how you could help others reach their dreams too, and that was worth far more than any pool could ever be.